let's talk about sentience first.
Okay.
I have I feel awkward about this conversation because I think it's not going to go bad. I'm just going to look like I have no idea what I'm talking about because I know I don't. Where other topics I have like strong thoughts on,
Hmm.
I don't know why I value certain levels of sentience over others.
Hmm.
In fact, because of this talk today, I like YouTube search and Google search like level of sentience to see other people talking about it. There are no videos about it. Nobody talks about it. I have heard it mentioned a handful of times in other debates where like maybe Hassan Piker will challenge ask yourself like, oh, why do you care about this? And he's like, well, there's levels of sentience, this,
Right.
that, and that. So there's little bits to talk. But anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm gonna let you throw out your thoughts. But I don't know why would value a certain level of sentience over another.
Yeah. Um, I'm probably mostly in the same boat where there are certain things that I value more than other things, and I've thought about it a little bit, and I think that there's certain like sentience itself is probably not the thing that I value. It's more like the very common things that are entailed by sentience, like ability to feel pain, like ability to have a high quality life, um, the ability to like think and process and like that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, like what I've how I've thought about like why do I value a cow more than like 10,000 mosquitoes or something is like I think about, well, why do I value a cow? It's like, oh, well, I see it there eating grass and it looks happy or something, or you pet it on the head and it seems to love you back or something, and you see it playing with a, they have the ability to play and like be maternal and all of these sort of things, whereas you don't really observe those things with a mosquito. That's a
Mm-hmm.
very like human centric way of looking at it, because like what about fish? Do fish like are they maternal? Like I don't know, with their like little schools, like I don't, they certainly don't observe them having those traits. So it's like I don't know if that's a like a logical thing to value, um,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's something that I can relate to. On the other hand, it's like we don't know a whole lot about, like, we don't exactly know what's going on in the brains of these animals. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we do see animals, when we observe animals doing things that we do recognize as like things that we ourselves value, like being maternal or playing or whatever, that's at least one data point in favor of like something we value, whereas as opposed to just being agnostic. So
Mm-hmm.
there's my ramble back at you.
Yeah, no, you're good. I think essentially that's how I feel is the little bit I thought of it is that the closer I can recognize that it is to me. So yeah, having eyes, ears, nose, and then seeing how it reacts to some level of pain that I can go, oh, that thing's probably feeling like how I feel. Now, it doesn't mean it is. Obviously, with scientific methods, you could find out that something seems
Right.
like it's feeling something, but it's not. Um, but when something seems so obvious, like you step on the foot of a dog and it whimpers,
Totally.
like it seeming obvious to a human brain doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it probably means more than anything else should mean as far as what we're able to perceive and think. And so there's that. I feel that the same all the things you were saying, seeing something be maternal, all that adds up to me. And then when you have something you can't like hear, like noises from, so like fish, it becomes more complicated, and then insects, it becomes even more complicated. But one thing that's interesting with insects is I haven't looked into all the studies, but I know like with like I think it's ants. If you like squish one of their legs, they don't like seem like they're in pain. They don't stop to check on it. They just keep going and do their robotic job. And so I don't know. It's one of those things where you kind of just have to rely on the science and
Well, Sort of. I have an
Okay.
interesting story about ants actually that just happened like 2 days ago.
Okay.
So I'm sitting here and I'll turn the camera because I have a window right here, right? So right
Okay.
now there's dogs and people out there, but when I'm working, this is where I work for the summer. Uh, I occasionally will look out the window, and I on Friday I looked out there and I saw there was like a bunch of ants crawling around on the deck there, and my eye kind of went to two of these ants. They're carpenter ants. They're bigger, easier to see, and they were just kind of like in a standoff with each other, like lots of jitterating and just that sort of thing, like facing each other. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like in a couple of seconds, they just like went at each other and just started like there was this mad scramble, and then one of the excuse me, one of the ants ended up on its back, and it was like twitching and stuff, and then the other ant just like kept attacking it, and then a third ant came up and was trying to like steal the whatever value the ant had, like I think it probably wanted the food or something, and then those two ants started fighting, but the other ant was just sitting there like still just like jitterating, presumably in pain, but like
Mm.
imagine if I had a microscope and like slowed that down to 100 times slower or something, because insects seem to move way quicker than we can process.
Mm-hmm.
It probably would have looked pretty similar to like the type of pain that we would relate to,
Gotcha. Yeah,
and
that's
especially
interesting.
with the scientific data that does show that insects feel pain, at least to some extent. Like that combined with like observing something like that, you got to think that that's not a nice thing to happen to you if you're an ant.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting. Not having many thoughts on something and then witnessing something like that. I probably told you before. Whenever I see worms in the street, I have to pick them up and find dirt to put them in. And I
Yeah.
part of why I do this is because I imagine there's no way they could ever do it on their own, especially if they're in a street where there's like sidewalks, so they have that extra ledge. But then randomly one day, I saw on a sidewalk ledge a worm climbing up it, and I'd never seen that before. But somehow a worm figured out how to climb up a sidewalk ledge, and so yeah, it's interesting what little we know of little things because we don't see little things that often. Well, so one thing I want to go over and hear your thoughts on is some people bring up intelligence, and I think it's clear we can't. To me, I don't judge anything. Like if I care about something based on intelligence alone, you could make like a robot that could be intelligent but can't feel anything, and so the intelligence itself doesn't matter. But maybe the intelligence can lead us to know that the more intelligent something is, the more it's able to feel pain or something. So I was looking at this list the other day, and I think it said the most intelligent animal is a octopus.
I saw that list too, actually. It's
Oh,
funny,
did you?
but I think a dolphin is more intelligent than an octopus, right? It just wasn't on
Okay.
that list.
Yeah, yeah, they
Was
didn't
it
have
it was
every
it was it
animal,
the
but
IQ list where it's like an octopus has
yeah.
an IQ of
How
80, I think?
Yeah, yeah, 70, 73, I think.
Yeah,
But
okay.
yeah, how on earth did that
It's
video pop up
random.
to you?
Well,
Um,
I was looking it up. So I think I ask a lot of just random questions when I'm with my friends, and so I think I was like,
okay.
what do you think is the most intelligent animal or something like that? And then we ended up
Hmm.
looking up the list. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yesterday I was looking up just sentient stuff to find any possible thing on sentience.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about sentience. Um, but yeah, so do you think okay, and then let's see. So it was an IQ thing, and so it was saying your average human, maybe average, was 100 IQ, where the octopus was like 73. Polar bear was the next one down, which was like
Really? I don't
50
remember.
something, and then dog was 19, pig was 20, and cat was 21. So, anyways, looking at those IQ numbers, which I don't even know how they detect that. That's very interesting. Because I hear it's complicated to even judge human IQ. But, anyways, why would you personally value intelligence if you would?
Intelligence. Um, yeah, I think I do, but I think okay. So I'm like you, where it's not a sufficient condition for value, in that like I wouldn't necessarily value an intelligent computer. And I don't think it's either, nor is it a necessary condition. It's just like one of many things that kind of stack into the set of things that I value to come up with a total value for the thing.
Yeah.
So why do I value it? There's obviously all sorts of like externalities that you can value. Just if somebody's intelligent, maybe they're more likely to solve an important problem that faces us all and increase the utility and reduce rights violations or whatever for humans or animals. So there's like good things about intelligence, but that's not a reason to value it in and of itself. I think it's just like it's just a thing that I value. I don't know. It might just bottom out literally there of just like, because I think for myself, I actually asked this question as well the other day. I'm curious to hear your answer, but if you could have a 20% increased intelligence for a 10% decreased quality of life, would you take the trade?
I would have to know what the decrease looks like. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have to know. If it was just like 20% of everything just went down, like 20% of strength, 20%
It's even
of
10%, I
energy.
said.
Oh,
So 20,
10%,
yeah.
10% of energy. I don't, I don't think so. I don't know.
No?
That one's tough. What did you go with?
Would you go the other way? So what if it was okay, so you could get an even 10% better quality of life by reducing your intelligence by 20%.
Yeah, I think the problem is this is one of those cases without seeing it, I can't decide, so I just go with what I know.
Hmm.
Because yeah, I would not go the other way
You
either.
wouldn't. Okay, so you're
No.
like in the sweet spot right now. Yeah, I would take the trade for a 10% reduced quality of life for a 20% increase of intelligence. So it's like if 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 I value intelligence that much that I would take a decreased quality of life,
Mm.
significant decrease in order to just get a little bit more intelligent, which only affects some parts of life, whereas quality of life is sort of like the what else is there? That's the sum of your experiences.
Hmm.
I must value it, and just because I value something doesn't necessarily mean that it correlates with what I value in other people. Um,
Hmm.
but I think for the most part, it kind of does. Like I'm a subjectivist, meaning that I like when I talk about moral things, I'm just meaning what's in accordance with my preferences. And so
Hmm.
it's like I have a preference that causes me to value intelligence, at least in myself. And I seem to value that in other people too. Like I like hanging out with smart people because I learn things and they challenge me in ways that less intelligent people don't. Like, but it's a fairly like beyond a certain threshold. It's like I don't know that I'd necessarily like value somebody who is really intelligent over two people who are, what I mean, less intelligent or something. Like if you take two
Yeah.
IQ 100 people, I think if I've got to save them or like one really smart person, externalities aside, I would save the two.
Okay. I was actually just going to ask you, like, if there was a fire and there was a 14-year-old and and there was a say a 70-year-old. You say the 14-year-old, but if the 14-year-old had like 100 IQ and they would throughout their entire life, I don't know if IQ changes over time, but they would their entire life. But the 70-year-old has like 150 IQ.
Yeah.
So for the 30 rest of the years of their lives, they're probably maybe going to affect the world in a crazy better way than maybe the entire uh, 86 years of the the
Hmm.
lives of the other one. Which route do you go?
Yeah. So you're bringing externalities into it. If I'm
Hmm.
factoring them out, I save the kid for sure.
Yeah.
And with them in, probably still the kid.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think so too. If it was, but I had never thought of valuing intelligence at all. I've heard people talk about like they would rather save someone like Albert Einstein over um, 1,000 just regular people, and I never agreed with that. But if it's 1 to 1, if there's two people in a burning building and they're 20, same gender, same everything lines up. The only difference is that one's way more intelligent, and I have to pick one. I guess I'd pick the intelligent one, so
Yeah.
it pushes a little bit, but yeah.
I
Um,
wonder.
yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, sort of like sketching this. I'm gonna pull up my screen here
Okay.
because it might be interesting to try to actually work through this to see if there's something that makes sense here.
Okay. While you're doing that, I'm going to say something to somebody in chat.
Okay.
Smexy Magician, if you're still in there, um, if you have something on this topic that you want to hop in here with us and throw out a thought that you have and see what we think of it, let me know and I'll link you into this. If you're just wanting to chat with me in general because we've been talking, I'm free throughout the day. After this talk, I can have you hop on a different one shortly after this one. So yeah. Okay, and then you're doing a thing, so I'm gonna pop this into here. Yes. Oh man,
So good, right?
we got a
And I'll do
mouse.
hey, so it's not that bad.
No, the mouse is good. The next thing is usually what I draw when I'm trying to make a dinosaur.
Yeah, this is a cow.
Okay, I
Does that
almost
help?
went with
I
camel.
do.
So when you started saying, I'm like, oh my gosh, I
I
got
think
it somehow.
I almost said it the wrong way too.
Yeah.
This is a
Okay, we got a
human.
cow.
That's an ant, by the way, here.
Okay. Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
even see that. That's
yeah.
so small. It's kind of it's like
I
real life.
started doing the to scale, but then the cow would have had to be too big, so I switched back. But yeah, so here's like sort of maybe a way to think about this. Why is my pen not working? Oh, it's freezing on me. Let's see, what can I do about that? Yeah, my screen froze. Well, maybe while I wait for it to oh yeah, there we go. So okay, still jumping around. Okay. So
You always
something
hear
like
that if humans have really large eyes, like in cartoons, that it makes them like more aesthetically pleasing. That's not the case with your human. Your human is not aesthetically pleasing. Okay, I'm ready.
how about now?
Oh, there we go.
Maybe they're glasses.
Uh,
It's just yeah, it's an intelligent human. All right. So something like this, right? Where if we list out like the various traits of value, like you mentioned, the remaining high quality life or something might be the reason why you value like a 14-year-old more than a 70-year-old. I think that's why, right? Something like that.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like, ability to to feel pain or something.
Yeah, well, I'd say so. I want to point out that it's a mixture of remaining quality of life and having already reached levels of understanding. So the
Okay.
reason I would choose like 5 over 1 is because a 1-year-old probably doesn't even care to exist, hasn't even thought of what existing is, and so a 5-year-old has reached this like further level of understanding and figured out who they are and have more of a want and care for the world. So that's why I choose 5 over the 1. And the same thing as you go up and up until you get to a certain level where the older age just starts being somebody that's already had a chance to experience. And that's why I would choose like the 20-year-old over the 30-year-old, because 20 and 30 aren't too far off, but one has more quality of life left. So
Right. So this one's kind of like a necessary condition, right? Like you
mm-hmm.
need to reach this point of sentience or whatever in order to even enter into the arena, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like, so once you're in the arena, now we value. Well, actually, are there different levels of the already reached sentience? So it's like, for me, there is. What about for you?
I mean, there's different in the sense that a fetus, the first moment it reaches sentience, is less valuable than a month later.
Yeah. So it's almost like this one is sort of like it's a
But
curve that
not
goes
due
up.
to that part, like
Yep.
the already reached on its own. I think that spans across anything that's living. Then it would just be added elements to it.
Already reached on its own. What do you mean?
Okay, so I was saying that like if something reached it and then a thing that's like a month older, I would care more about that. I don't think that means like that would be a different topic. That would be like the right like because it has gained like a higher level of consciousness. Um, so I guess that the already reach is just an element that just spans everything that has reached it, and there wouldn't be levels of that unless I'm not thinking that through.
So hold on. So you value a 1 year old more than a fetus. Did you say you
Hmm.
value like do you think that this um so like there's a certain point here at which like there's no further value accrued from further gaining of sentience or something, or
Oh
is there?
yeah, I gotcha.
I'm just trying to figure out.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, like if we were just talking about level of sentience on its own, I thought we were splitting sentience into all these different categories.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
if you just took sentience, then like let's say you took something like pain. So pain's its own separate thing. So I would say that yeah, if something, if 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 you continuously were able to perceive pain the older you got, and so a 40-year-old could feel more pain than a 20-year-old, then I
Right.
would start putting more value on the suffering of the 40-year-old. But the reaching the sentience itself, I don't think the level would change if we have sentience broken up into these different pieces. So
Okay. Even in the case of the fetus, so it's like the moment where it starts having sentience, it has maximum value for this one, and then
for that category, I think
yeah.
just because we have it all split up. So the
Yep.
if intelligence, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so maybe this is sort of like a summation rather than um its own one. But yeah, anyway, the point is like if we were to like literally brainstorm like what are all the relevant traits that we care about that sort of make up what we think about when we say something is sentient, therefore I value it. And
Hmm.
this is maybe some of the items on the list, and there's probably more. Like I got to think the way to do this would just be look at every use case and just say like, humans get an intelligence score of like 100. Let's say this gets an intelligence score. What did you say? 12 or
Uh,
something, or I don't know, whatever.
yeah,
Like
I can't
that's
remember for cows.
IQ score, but like
Yeah, yeah.
maybe this one gets like, you know, um, oops, gets like 30 points or something. This one gets, is a mouse smarter than a cow? What does your thing say?
Ooh, I
I think
can't
they
remember.
are. I think they might be actually.
Yeah, there was some weird ones in there for sure.
Let's see,
Pigeons were
ant is
higher than a lot of things, and I was shocked at that.
and then like remaining high quality life or something. So that would probably depend on like the age, but like let's just take the lifespan in this case. So
Hmm.
human, let's set them to 100. So a cow lives what 25 years. A human lives like 100, so like a quarter.
Hmm.
Let's just say 25. Mouse lives what? Do you know? Eight,
Ooh, I
10,
don't know. I'm kind of curious now.
and an ant. Like an ant's like got to be like a year or less, right?
Yeah, answer probably. Let's see. Um, oh, I put how long does a mouse, and I didn't put live, and so it told me how long, like their shape
Yeah.
is. Let's see. Um, 12 to 18 months for mice.
Oh, that's it, eh? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like one also. So yeah. Um, and then like ability to feel pain or pleasure. So if we set humans again to 100, like
Oh, I
I
gotta pause you real quick.
this
The
yeah,
queen ants live
yeah,
30 years.
no way.
Yeah, and worker ants from 1 to 3 years.
Wow. That's
Whew, that's
nuts.
crazy. Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
call it 3. That's crazy.
Um, okay. Let's look at the life real quick. I'm trying to imagine like it. I think it make unless you want to break down the different ones after you write it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
let's just quickly just jam out this pain one because I think that so I would have put a cow at 100. Would you?
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know how to judge the difference between level of pain based on what a thing is versus what pain it feels for itself. So I don't know why
What do
to
you mean?
judge if like so if you like if you poke me with a tack, there's going to be a certain amount of pain that I'm going to feel as a human with that amount of pressure happening. But if you poke like a mouse with a tack, or I guess if you take a tack small enough that it's the same, it's okay. If you stab me with a knife, and then I'm going to feel a certain amount of pain. But if you scale that knife down to the size that would be equal to stabbing like a rat,
Hmm.
oh, is there reason to think that the rat would feel less or more pain than me, like for its own feelings?
Yeah, there might be research on this because if we're able to, just as an example, like I know some of the experiments around pain, they observe behavior and they observe some of them observe like brain states and stuff like that. But I think the behavior one is the biggest one. And so they'll like, I know the way they've done this with fish is they use like they inject the fish with a certain like painful toxin or something, and then they see what the fish does. And like fish left to their own devices will go to the tank that has like all the toys in it, but the ones that are injected with pain don't really care. They just like they're just not concerned with toys right now because they're in pain. So that there's a behavior
Mm.
change. But then if they put like the um, the antidote or whatever to the poison in the tank without the toys, the fish that were injected with the poison will go into that tank. So there's stuff like
Yes.
behavioral stuff like that. So maybe you could scale down like the amount of poison and see like, well, if you inject the fish with like even a tiny amount of poison, like they're so sensitive to pain, you know what I mean? That like they, even at that point, the behavior changes. Whereas a human maybe just goes when they're when they you probably couldn't ethically do, I would argue you can't ethically do this with animals either, but like you're never going to get an experiment like that with humans, but you could
Mm.
certainly compare it against like mice or something, in terms of how they respond to similar like pain amounts and poison thresholds and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So there's probably, I would I would guess that there's probably some research out there that like that hypothesizes at least certain animals experience like being able to experience like relating their pain to something we'd understand in terms of they feel it more, they're more sensitive to pain or less, but I don't know the
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, like if you took, I think they've done some things where they've hooked up electroid things to guys to show them what it's like to give birth. And so if we had like a level of, okay, so we know that that's a certain amount of pain, and then we can make a scale of all the human levels of pain. It'd be interesting if we could like know without doing inhumane studies on them, like what action to a cow is going to make it feel a certain amount of pain. And is there a level that is just the highest level for each animal? Is every animal's highest level the same? They all have a highest for them,
Right.
therefore like even if we could detect it was less for their for what they feel, it's the same.
That's really interesting because like biologically, like what is pain? It's neurons firing in a certain way. And
Hmm.
so it's like there's got to be a maximum amount of pain, which is just all of them firing as fast as they can fire. So there would be some upper threshold of like what is possible to experience
Well,
pain wise.
and with
Yeah,
humans, wouldn't you pass out at the highest level, like once you reach a max?
I think so.
Or the highest level while conscious, because
Right.
then
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
then
sure.
you wouldn't feel pain unconscious. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
So, but in the absence of like knowing this question, it's like we know that we've done like all kinds of experiments. We can observe animals responding in similar ways. They seem to be tougher than we are, but I would argue that humans living out in the woods who, you know, scrape their knees more often, I think they would be tougher than we are also.
Yeah,
Um, so it's like, is this fair to just call a wash across the board? Like
I
maybe,
want to say so at least for mammals.
yeah, I know. I'm not
I
sure.
hope not for insects.
I know
I
you do.
like like if especially if you take things to scale, like if you imagined like that humans so humans and cows aren't too far off in size. I mean, cows maybe double the weight or whatever, but if you stand next to a cow, we're a size. If you scaled up a living being that was sentient, that made it to where the cow and us are like an ant to them, then the fact that they're that big doesn't change that us ant, cow, like human and cow, the size of an ant
Yeah.
to them, is going to feel pain just how we feel it today. We're not going to change how much we feel it. And so I certainly hope that even if there is enough pain, and even if there wasn't pain, I wouldn't randomly kill a bug for no reason. It's on a mission. Um, I, um, I hope that we can find out and detect that whatever they feel, it's not good. We shouldn't harm them for no reason, but they don't feel the way we do. Because if they
Yeah.
do,
My gut is that they don't also, but like I'm
yeah,
because I'm open to having like seeing something research wise that changes this, and I hope it does come out. But like, what if we put them at like a 5 or something, right? Like some significantly lower number, in because like
yeah.
maybe it's like, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm picturing just like this my state of mind when like I had an appendix operation, and when I was
Hmm.
like I was on all sorts of drugs coming out of that or whatever when I was put under, but like that reduce pain. But I'm just like, even if the pain reduction part wasn't there, my brain state was just so like warped that like I don't think I was sort of at like that lower level of sentience almost, I feel. And it's like, so I feel like pain would have been numbed just because I wasn't thinking clearly. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Mm. Hmm.
anyway, the point here, so like, maybe we do like, or maybe it's like 5 and 4 or something at 100, where so we can talk about each of these and like if we want to actually adjust the values, but the point is something like this where you build out this grid of like the what do we want to call this, the building blocks of moral value or something, and then
Hmm.
it's like maybe there's an amplifier that's like, well, intelligence, we value this a little less, whereas like the remaining life we value a little more. Maybe ability to reason is less, the ability to feel pain is like, a larger multiplier or something. So
Mm.
we weight like the different traits, and then maybe they're not all linear also. It's like maybe there's like a more complicated function, like ability to feel pain. It's like, or maybe we'll use a different example, like um, the remaining life one, for example. It's like maybe if it's below like a certain, like maybe you want to make it a logarithmic function or something, because it's like, do you value, when you compare like a flea that lives a day to like a fish fly or something who lives 2 days, it's like if you're comparing it against humans, they both seem inconsequential, but like when you're comparing
Hmm.
them against each other, one is like literally twice as much as the other. So it's like, I think the difference between a flea and a fish fly in terms of the amount of value I assign to the remaining high quality life is different than a human that lives one extra day. Like I think that's pretty
Hmm.
much a wash. So maybe there's like some function that goes into this weighting. But you get some, anyways, the point is you get like some calculation, and then you can plug that into like a specific. So it's like there's a mentally disabled 14-year-old or something who has a condition where they don't feel pain or something like that, right? And you can plug
Hmm.
in all of these values and see, it's like, hey, is that consistent with how I would actually value this person? And then maybe
Mm.
you're off in some ways, you go back to your drawing board. But I think this is like the way to do this.
Well, okay. One thing I'm curious about, your thoughts on: does the feeling of pain affect if you value something existing or not? Because I don't think it does. The feeling of pain just lets me know that I think we shouldn't violate the negative rights to feel pain. But if you were going to snap one thing out of existence or another, their
Mm.
capability of feeling pain, I don't even think I'd put them on that list.
Yeah, I said pain pleasure, but they probably could be separated out, because I think it's at least logically possible that you could feel pleasure but not pain.
Well,
Um,
I don't think I would factor either of those, the level of
oh
feeling
yeah.
pain or pleasure, as far as if they were like, would that make me think that they should exist more than another?
Oh, well, okay. So I guess, yeah, it depends on the question we're asking. Because if the question we're asking is this being worthy of like moral consideration?
Hmm. Yeah. So if you have you said a 14-year-old that was unable to feel pain, and then you had a 14-year-old that was able to feel pain, or let's see, yeah, let's just say that for right now. So everything else is the same, and you're deciding who to save in
Yeah.
this building. Honestly, if those were the only details we knew, I think it would be.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. What do you
Yeah.
think?
No, I am. That's an interesting point because maybe moral consideration is also a relative question. It's like, given what set of circumstances? It's like,
Hmm.
because maybe they're equal of moral consideration, but um, yeah, like, what is the moral question we're talking about? Like, is it poking them with a knife to a, a
Yeah.
non-permanently
Well.
damaging extent, or is it like, because that
Mhm.
would be worse for the person who can feel pain, even if the damage is the same. But
Mhm.
the killing entirely seems like it would be equally bad for both.
Yeah, like cause me, I have a will to live. I want to listen to so much music. If I all of a sudden couldn't feel any pain for the rest of my life, there would be a couple things that would come into my life. One, I'd have more danger because I wouldn't know if my hand's on a stove, and then the other is the other benefit, which is kind of a superpower, is that I just wouldn't feel pain. But it wouldn't change that I want to live as long as I can and do as much of the things I love as I can. So if
Hmm.
I was snapped out, the snapping out, I think I would be just as pissed about.